it might have been one of the most successful civil rights acts that we've ever done. Before the IDEA was passed in the early 1970s, generations of students with disabilities were not allowed to be all they could be in the schools of this country. But in the aftermath of the IDEA, there's a mandate that students who have an identified disability first be acknowledged for that. And then secondly, they receive an individualized education plan that's tailored to meet that particular disability and help them succeed. And generations of students since the passing of IDEA have been able to get this individualized focus and achieve in remarkable ways. Many students, because they get an a designation of having a disability and then an individualized education plan, they only need that plan for a couple of years, and then they're completely able to be mainstreamed without an IEP during much of their educational career, because early intervention helps them basically climb the ladder and get on a path to success. The problem with the IDEA is that the federal government, when it passed the law, made a commitment. There was a recognition that if we require local school jurisdictions, state school jurisdictions, to provide individualized services to those who have an identified disability, there would be a cost to that. And the deal when the bill was passed, the understanding was the federal government should bear 40% of that cost. State and local systems should bear 60% of the cost. The federal contribution to IDEA expenses nationally has never reached 40%, has never been near 40%. Right now, the federal contribution to these IEP expenses is 13% of the cost, which means we're dramatically underfunding local governments. That gap is to the tune of about $24 billion a year. I've often thought that if there's just one thing we could do at the federal level that would help local schools, it would be fully fund the IDEA, because when the federal government doesn't fully fund its 40% share, then that means that the local jurisdictions need to find those funds. And that makes it harder for them to give teachers raises. It makes it harder for them to do facility upgrades, to make sure that there's good technology in schools, get kids out of trailers, build new buildings when the buildings get too old. That $24 billion gap gets picked up by local school districts, but because they don't have infinite resources, they have to take it out of other priorities. So if we could, over time, move to fully funding of the IDEA, and that's what this bill calls for, a phased-in funding approach, if we could do that, it would provide tremendous more flexibility for local governments to, in operating their own school systems, to find better ways to compensate, retain, attract teachers, and make sure the facilities that our kids learn in are not second class, but are really up to the challenge of 21st century education. So I'm very proud to be a sponsor of that. I've long promoted the IDEA as a great bill, but federal government needs to finally step up and do its share, and I want to work with colleagues to make sure that we do.